Happy Wednesday, Striver. I hope that this day you began with a great sense of purpose in your life. You chose to bring to this day that lens of purpose that just says, I'm going to see this world through an intentional view. I'm going to bring my presence and my intention to this day so that I'm living a purposeful day. I'll sense meaning, purpose, and fulfillment, joy, and whatever emotional range that you want to experience today, that you're experiencing life purposefully, that you're bringing energy and emotion to life purposefully, that you're treating other people around you purposefully, that you are thinking about your days, the work that you do, the relationships you're creating, who you are becoming as a person purposefully. Of course, everybody thinks about this topic of purpose differently. And so I just thought I'd share with you some components that I think of when someone asks me, how do I find my purpose or what is my purpose? And unfortunately, I can share with you here right at the beginning of the Daily Fire, I don't think there's one answer to this. I don't believe that we have one singular purpose in our lives. Certainly, our focus and our attention and our efforts, our days, our goals, and ultimately our legacy and destiny change with certain events in our life. Your purpose and focus might change when you leave college or when you have a family, when you've got the second child, when you've got, bills, when you change careers, when you move cities, when you go through a transition to what you think is really important in life. Your focal points can really change. But I believe that typically purpose is derived from just like 6 things. And I'll describe these in a way that I hope makes sense to you. You might want to take some notes on these because I believe we don't get our sense of purpose from just one thing. I do believe, however, purpose can be aimed to the singular. What do I mean by that? Well, I think purpose can be something you imbue the moment with. All right, before I get into all these different categories of where you can sense purpose, meaning you receive a sense of purpose, I believe that you can bring a sense of purpose to each moment, each relationship, each task, each day, each week. We can also derive or receive a sense of purpose in how we go about certain parts of our life. So let me give you some categories. When I think of purpose, it always in my mind with what I wrote about in High Performance Habits, the book. You might remember the first habit is that high performers seek clarity. They're constantly seeking clarity about who they are or how they want to treat other people, about the skills they need to develop to succeed or feel fulfilled, about the service they want to provide to others. And so that's a nice little framework to start with, and then I'll talk about how we can derive some purpose or bring some purpose to that. First, the self. Who you are becoming as a person is in itself a purpose. People often forget that our purpose isn't just about what we do each day with our tasks and our time. It's also about who we are becoming. I believe we have a purpose, obviously, to grow into who we are meant to be. We have a purpose to actualize the best of who we are, to find better ways to understand that, to express that, to live in integrity with that there's a purpose in self itself. I also believe that we derive purpose from our social relationships, that my life feels purposeful because I'm a good son or a good brother or a good uncle or a good parent or a good husband or a good role model. All of those as examples would give me a sense of purpose potentially. And yours obviously comes through your relationships. We know certainly that lifelong happiness is directly correlated with the quality of our relationships. And so those relationships themselves are a purpose. I believe that our competency, our skill, our mastery in certain areas, passions, hobbies, obsessions, become a purpose in itself. As an example, one of the skill sets I try to develop is as a communicator and a teacher. I find a purpose in that. A skill set I try to, manifest is as a writer, developing my ability to write narrative, to write copy, to write dialogue, to write great books, to write great emails. That skill set of communication in writing and teaching is something I find purposeful in, and a skill can be a very simple thing. My father, he loved to make bird boxes. And it was a hobby he had. It was a skill he had. It was something he enjoyed doing. It was an artistic expression. It was part of a competency he had, and there was purpose in that. Maybe not one of those huge life purposes, but he found purpose in doing that in the garage, tinkering on weekends. I also believe that we find purpose in our service to the world. What it is we do as a mission or a career, or how we contribute to any given group or family. Service to others is a specific type of purpose, isn't it? And so when I think of those four things, self, social, skill, and service, I know that I'll feel a connection with purpose if two things are happening. The first thing, do I sense fulfillment there? Is this something that I feel is authentic and fulfilling to me? It is honoring my nature, my impulses, what I feel connected to. Often people, when they say, I lost my purpose or I don't feel a sense of purpose, what they mean is they haven't found a way to live in their self, a way to relate with others socially, a way to develop a specific skill, or a way to provide a type of service in such a way it feels true and authentic to them, which then makes it feel fulfilling. I also believe, on top of fulfillment, there's a part of us that senses purpose when across those four categories, self, social, skill, and service, we can sense growth, or the activation or expression or enlargement of our potential. Potential. See, I know a lot of people with a great job, a great career. I mean, I started out in some of my first big teachings. I was teaching nonprofit organizations and entrepreneurs how to work together. And I worked with, literally thousands of organizations, and teaching them and working with them. And what became very clear was you'd think a person who was in the nonprofit world giving, making sacrifices so that they can give and serve at the highest levels would automatically feel purposeful. But that's not true. Because if they didn't feel fulfilled by the work, it didn't matter how many kids they might be saving, how many folks they might be helping deal with very difficult situations around the world. If they didn't feel fulfilled, it just wasn't the natural or meant to be alignment with who they really were and what they really desired. It's okay that sometimes we don't feel authentic or fulfilled by doing things that we think we are, quote unquote, supposed to do. That's the challenge of life. In seeking to become the best of who we are, develop deep relationships, develop more mastery in our skills, and find the thing of service that brings us authenticity and fulfillment. You know what? The odds are sometimes we'll have that and sometimes we won't. And that's why we have to always default to bringing purpose to each day. Because the truth is, it might shift or change over a period of time as yourself, your social relationships, your skill sets, and the service you feel connected to also shifts throughout your lifetime. But I do know this, that people who have a great alignment and authenticity and fulfillment across those categories, if they don't also feel like they are growing, progressing, building momentum, and moving towards their highest potential, eventually that connection with purpose will break. Because as I shared, I believe one of the greatest purposes we all have is to grow into the fullest and truest and highest expression of who we are mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. That potential activation is something that we must have. And so I know a lot of people who, if they don't feel challenged, they don't feel a sense of progress or growth in their life, everything can be perfect. And people are like, why aren't you happy? And it's hard for them to understand that, well, you just happen to be one of those strivers who wants to activate and ultimately fulfill your highest potential on this planet. That's hard for a lot of people to understand who've never touched the higher realms or connections with purpose. I really believe that across all of these things, not everybody, but a lot of us, certainly for me, there's another category there. Self, social, skill, service, and I would say spirit or spirituality. For me, I feel a connection with my Creator. I am somebody who happens to believe in God. And so I have a deep connection there, and I want to know I am living in integrity and living in alignment to what I believe spiritually. And I never share or impose those values on my audiences because I understand lots of people believe in God, lots of people don't. Some people who believe don't have that deep of a connection, or others have a really great connection. Other people who don't believe one day might or might not ever, and they're cool with other people, or they really dislike any word that sounds like God. And either way, I just always say your spirit, whether you consider that a soul or the spirit of life, a joie de vivre, an enjoyment, and a deeper connection emotionally with the world around us, whatever you call that, spirit, spirituality, or a connection to a certain type of religion, either way, there's something there, isn't there? That when we act against our soul or spirit's desires, when we act against our higher principles or beliefs, no matter how far we've grown as a person or how good of relationships we have or how unbelievable we are and masterful at our skill sets or how good we are at providing service to the world, if we're not in alignment to our spirit, our soul, something larger, we tend not to feel a true deeper or higher sense of purpose. Good news is, I don't have any answers for you today. I hope that I provided a framework for you to think through what brings you purpose. Of course, I'll talk about this in Growth Day Pro in a live cast, but I thought I would share this framework for you to think through it. I believe we're always seeking clarity in these ways. So if you're struggling with clarity in general with your life, pick up High Performance Habits and read the chapter on seeking clarity, or hop into your course section. Just go to the Learn section in the Growth Day app and watch the High Performance Habit Builder. And there's a module there on seeking clarity that might help you as well. And of course, there's so many other things you can learn in the Learn section of the app from some great Growth Day coaches who have a perspective on this. Or hop over to courses or audiobook and look for any title that just resonates with you today and maybe continue your journey. Either way, I hope that you caught one message I shared here today. If you don't feel connected to your purpose because of self, social, skill, service, or spirit, because of you're not finding that thing that's fulfilling or authentic, or you don't feel like you're yet activating your potential, then begin with the next singular moment by bringing more intention to this moment, to this day, to this feeling, to this blessed opportunity you have to be alive today. Live more intentionally each day on the micro in those hours of the day, and you tend to feel a greater connection in the macro, in your week, your month, your year, your decade. your life. I want to congratulate you for making personal development a priority today. If you love this topic and you know anyone struggling with it, please go ahead and share growthday.com with somebody you love today, somebody you connect with, somebody on your team today. These conversations aren't actually that common out in the marketplace, and I know you know that. We're in a world that celebrates and talks about mental health and gives a lot of conversation to it. We're in a world that gives a lot of conversation to growth, but very few people like you show up like this today. And I can tell you, there's not another singular company in the world like Growth Day developing these many tools, this much content, these many high caliber coaches, and this type of community of strivers around the world who really want to make self-improvement a way of life. So I celebrate you. And if you know someone who would dig this, send growthday.com out to them. Let them take a 14-day free trial and just see the power of what we're doing here. Even if they just came and listened to Daily Fire for 14 days, I think you inspired them. I appreciate you being part of the community. I appreciate you being here today. Just like always, just one little touch of personal development like this today can remind us that every day is a great day to grow.